And we're live. What's up, guys? This is Notorious Picks with the first episode of the MMA X Factor. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been a long time coming. I've been thinking about dropping this podcast for a few months, and recently I was able to find an angle that I want to present. I think there's a lot of bright MMA minds that already do full breakdowns, so I wanted to do something different, and I'm ready to present it to you guys. Um, just to give you a quick overview of this podcast, I'll be picking anywhere from 1 to 3 most intriguing matchups on upcoming cards, and I'll be looking to break down the X factors that each fighter brings to the table. After breaking down the X factors, I will give you guys suggestions on potential prop bets with the current lines. So let's start with the first and only matchup that I picked for UFC 224, which is the Saturday, and that is Kelvin Gastelum against Jacare Souza. There are two reasons why I picked this matchup. First, I believe it's a super important fight in the middleweight division. I think if either guy comes out and has a dominant performance, he will establish himself as the number one contender for the next title shot. And the second reason is, I think from the stylistic point of view, this is such a juicy matchup. I think both fighters bring elite skill sets, and they both have a path to victory here. So that's why I wanted to break it down. So let's start with the first X factor in this fight, and that I believe is KG's advantage in terms of speed and in his boxing skills. I believe for KG, the best approach in this fight would be to keep it in between kicking and boxing range. I don't think that he should just simply stay in the pocket and trade. Although he will have an advantage in terms of speed, and I'm not really concerned about his chin there. What I'm concerned about is if he stays in the boxing range and doesn't move out, that Jacare will close the distance and get in the clinch range, which is more of Jacare's world. So I think for KG to be successful and for us to really see his elite boxing skills, he has to utilize the right kind of footwork. And I mean it from offensive and defensive point of view. Offensively, he has to look at what Robert Whittaker did against Jacare. He has to obviously stay light on his feet, and he has to keep Jacare guessing. You know, if you only just gonna look for the left hand and the only setup you have is either with the right jab or the right hook, I think that's not enough. I think he needs to show a little more. He has to keep Jacare guessing, kind of like what Whittaker was doing. You know, like he overwhelmed Jacare with possibilities on the feet, and since Jacare is not a natural striker, he was overthinking. You know, he wasn't sure if Whittaker's going to be there or if he's going to move away. What is he going to hit him with? So that's what KG has to do. And in terms of defensive footwork, KG has to also take a page out of Whittaker's book, and he has to learn how to circle out better when someone pressures him. I think in the past we've seen KG kind of backing straight into the fence when someone presses forward. I think that it'll be much better for him if he learns how to circle out. I think he doesn't want to really get into the clinch range. You know, if you don't circle out correctly, that's where you're going to end up being, you know, and that's what Jacare is going to be looking to do. So, yeah, that's what KG has to keep in mind. He not just offensively, but defensively. I think that might be even a bigger key here. So let's move on to the next X factor, and that is Jacare's clinch and ground game. I combined the two because Jacare is not a guy who's going to get you in the clinch and he's just going to rest and, do Johnny Hendricks, where he puts his head between your legs and just kind of, scores points, but not really doing anything. He's not that kind of guy. He's going to look to take you down, and he's patient in his approach. He's not the guy who's going to just use explosive movements and gas himself out. He's gonna do it tactically. He's gonna get you. He's gonna try maybe go for single leg or double leg, and then if he sees that that doesn't work, he will transition to another technique. He's really good with his judo. He's got great inside trips. So he's got a variety of takedowns. He's really good at chaining them. And like I said, he might not be able to hit that first takedown, but he is very persistent and patient, and he eventually gets his opponent to the ground. So I think that's where the danger starts for KG in this range. And once again, I think he will be wise to look at what Whitaker did against Jacare. Jacare was able to close the distance effectively and take Whitaker to the ground. I believe it was in the first 2 minutes of the first round. But Whitaker, as soon as it hit the ground, he immediately got back to his knees and then got back to his feet. Jacare looked to take his back, but he got a little too high on his back, and Whitaker was able to shake him off. But as soon as he was free, he got back to the middle of the octagon. He didn't want to be in the clinch range at all, and that is something that KG has to look to do. I don't think that KG has necessarily the athleticism of Whitaker to get back to his feet so quickly, but I think he has enough technique, and it's just a matter of fact if he can utilize it correctly and consistently. So that's going to be the key factor there. And then if we transition to the ground, once he hits the ground, I think Jacare is going to be able to just overwhelm completely KG. I think Jacare has amazing top control, definitely in the top three. I really rate Luke Rockhold's top game. I think Jacare is about the same. They just look for different things. Luke is more of he's going to get a mount or get you back and just punish you with ground and pound, whereas Jacare, he's okay working from side control or half guard, and he looks for submissions more than ground and pound, but he can ground and pound as well. So I think on the ground, KG has to be really sharp. He has to be aware of danger at all times. What Jacare does really well is he can make you think about a guard pass, and at the same time, he's already setting up a submission. So you got to pick your poison. Are you going to defend a submission, or are you going to give up a position? And obviously, the better thing to do is to defend a submission. Well, while you're defending a submission, he's going to pass, and then when he passes, he already looks for a different trap. So there's going to be a battle. It's going to be Jacare, setting up things 3-4 moves ahead, and it's going to be interesting whether KG can keep up and survive. I think that's, if he doesn't get back to his feet as soon as he hits the mat, I think he's going to struggle to get up. The scrambles that he created against Neil Magny are not going to be there against Jacare. The Jacare's hips are going to be a lot heavier than Neil Magny's, and so I think KG just has to be aware that that's what's going to happen if he lets it hit the ground, and he just has to avoid it at all costs. So moving on to the next X Factor, which I think will play the biggest role in this fight, and that is the fight IQ of both fighters. If we start off with Jacare, I think Jacare has that elite mentality that's needed to be a champion. I haven't seen him lose fights due to his bad fight IQ. If we quickly go over his losses in the UFC and Strikeforce, he only has 3. And there's a few different things that are in common between those 3 things. First of all the guys that beat him were either champions, are champions, or are going to fight for the title next month. So that is Luke Rockhold, Whitaker, and Romero. So those all three guys are very much at the top of that division. Second common denominator between those three losses, I think, was the inability of Jacare to keep those guys on the ground with consistency. He got at least one takedown on all three of those guys. He only was able to take down Romero and Whitaker once, and against Whitaker, like I said, he was able to get it to the ground, but he couldn't keep him down. And Whitaker was so smart to not even get into that position again. He just kept it light on the feet. He was moving in and out. He was really smart with his angles, and really he just lost to a better fighter, I believe. That's why Whitaker is a champ. And his loss to Romero, I think he should have gotten a decision there. He got dropped in the first, but I think he adjusted well in the second and third, which I think shows a good fight IQ. And I think he should have gotten a decision there, but close fight, judges decide differently, so it is what it is. And against Rockhold, I think he got Luke down about 5 times, but Luke is so tough to keep down. He has amazing jiu-jitsu, and he's a big boy. So when you combine great technique with strength, it's kind of tough to keep those guys on the ground. And so yeah, I think as I just said, we saw like common things among those losses. All fighters were elite. All fighters were hard to keep on the ground or take down. And I don't think that KG necessarily is that same guy. I don't think that KG is has that same fight IQ that Whitaker, Romero, and Rockhold have. I think KG's fight IQ is a little bit below that. I think he's inconsistent. That's his issue, really. I think that he has all the physical tools to become, one of the best, if not the best, in that division. He's got great base in wrestling. He's got brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He has really good boxing. So he doesn't really have many holes in terms of physical holes. But I think what lets him down is his mindset, usually. And by mindset, I don't mean that he's not tough or he doesn't have the heart. I think he has plenty of that. I think he just doesn't make the best decisions inside the octagon. That's what it really comes down to. I think at times he just relies too much on his toughness. He lets guys control him, in wrestling positions, and he pretty much kind of tells him, "Hey, you're not gonna finish me from here. You're gonna maybe control me for a bit, but you're gonna get more tired than I am. And when we're back on the feet, I'm gonna put combinations on you and finish you." And it worked really well against Tim Kennedy, but it didn't work against Chris Weidman. And I think that's the issue. He can beat guys just outside of that top 5 because he can afford to make more mistakes. But when you get into that top 5, you really have to be on your game at all times. You can't make those mistakes. And for my liking, I still see those mistakes from KG, especially on the ground. I also do see some improvements. If we compare his fight against Neil Magny to the Weidman fight, you could clearly see that he's gotten better. Against Neil Magny, he gave up the mount and his back so many times, and really was just relying on scrambles to get out of those positions and just use bad technique. And then against Weidman, he was much better in that department, especially early in the fight. He really made Weidman work for those takedowns. But eventually, Weidman was able to impose his will, and KG didn't really adjust. That's the issue. That's where the lack of fight IQ is apparent. In between rounds, when after the second round that he lost to Chris, he should have adjusted. He should have fought better, and he did come out with a little more urgency in the third, but still he made too many mistakes. He got taken down. Then Weidman was threatening to take the mount, and KG defended it, but while he was defending it, he gave up a submission and got arm triangled. And that is something that he really has to watch out against Jacare. Jacare is a master of giving you those two options. Are you going to defend the pass or are you going to defend the submission? And I think he's going to create those opportunities for himself, and it's really up to KG to be mentally sharp to defend those. But even then, he might not have enough experience and technique to deal with someone like Jacare, who is a 6th-degree black belt. That's absolutely insane. So yeah, it's going to be very tough. All right, so let's look at some props based on the research that I just provided for you guys. And the first prop that goes along with the first X Factor, and that is KG inside the distance or KO prop. I think if you guys believe in KG, and obviously he has a path to victory here, he's not completely outclassed, then I think that's the way he gets it done. I think that you might as well just take a shot at the KO because the price is a little better than the inside the distance. Is plus 210 versus plus 197, and if he hurts Jacare, I think he's gonna look to TKO him. He's not gonna look for submissions. That's gonna be silly. You know, you're gonna let Jacare recover if you're gonna look for submissions. So I think if you guys, like I said, if you guys believe that KG gets it done, I think that's the way he does it, and I wouldn't mind taking a shot at that. The second prop that I want to discuss is Jacare by submission, which is at plus 185, inside the distance plus 150. I think you might as well take a shot at submission. KG has a really good chin, and even if he gets in a bad situation on the ground and he's getting pounded on, I think he's going to give up a submission before he gets TKO'd. Yeah, I mean that's the part of Kelvin which is actually pretty great, is that he does have that toughness and he has the chin. But like I said, if he gets in a compromising situation, he might give up a submission, and Jacare is really good at snatching those. And lastly, the last prop that I want to mention is fight doesn't go the distance. It's at negative 250-ish right now. It's a bit steep, but it was around negative 200 a few days ago, which I think both of them are still pretty good value. I think that covers obviously more angles, and I think there's a good chance of it not going to distance. Either Jacare gets a submission or maybe KG catches him. So yeah, I think those are the three bets that I wanted to mention, and hopefully you guys can find some value here, and let me know what you think about this breakdown. Like I said, this is my first one. I'm hoping to improve on a weekly basis, and for the next week, I already have at least one matchup lined up, and it's a super juicy one. It is Chad Laprise versus Vicente Luque. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that one, as I absolutely loved researching it. Both guys are super exciting, but that's for next week. And once again, I want to say thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you guys catch your bets this weekend.